You have probably noticed by now that we don't hear about many women during this period of time. Women were supposed to be in the home, they were not supposed to be in business, they were not supposed to work for other people or corporations, and they certainly didn't have any talent. You're going to see later when we get into photography and painting and those sorts of things that women started to come out of the woodwork and show that they could do what men could do. One of the more famous journalists for the New York World was a woman named Nellie Bly. Perhaps you've heard of her. Her real name was Elizabeth Cochran, but she was known as Nellie Bly. She was one of the first female full-time newspaper reporters, but she gained fame by pretending to be a mental patient so that she could be admitted into Blackwell's Island in New York City to write about the dreadful conditions of neglect and physical abuse at the mental institution. She spent 10 days there. People do that today. People did that maybe 30, 40 years ago, but to have done it 100 years ago was very unusual, and for it to be a woman was even more unusual. She was also known for writing a book called Around the World in 72 Days, and this is what she did. She wanted to see if she could break the record of traveling around the world in 80 days, as was made famous by author Jules Verne in his classic fiction novel Around the World in 80 Days. In 1890, Bly made the trip in 72 days while traveling by ship, horse, rickshaw, burro, and other vehicles. Pretty special for her to write about something that was real. Like I said, she was investigative. She wanted to write about things that really happened, and to have done the trip was one thing, but then to write a book and publish a book about it was something else. Now we get to today's numbers, and we find out that today there are 1,350 newspapers across the U.S., approximately. The Wall Street Journal, USA Today, the New York Times, and the Los Angeles Times are the 4 top newspapers by circulation. I want you to remember this, please. The Christian Science Monitor also has a national distribution, but not in the same numbers as those other 4. And how many newspapers did we have in 1880? Go back and look at that, and you'll see that this is just a mere fraction of what is left. And so what is their collective legacy? Because if you don't enjoy them now, probably in 15 to 20 years, there may not be any, or there may just be a handful of newspapers left, which is pretty sad for somebody like me who grew up with newspapers. But they left us with this legacy of professional writing, aggressive reporting, investigative journalism, banner headlines, pictures, and color printing. USA Today made some headway in number 1 being a national newspaper, not just out of one big city, and they were the first to use color. Injects energy and verve into American journalism. And so we look at their functions in terms of functions of mass communication compared with the functions of print media. And we see that those 4 functions that we had talked about were surveillance, correlation, cultural transmission, and entertainment. And these are what print media do. Diffusion of ideas and knowledge. We don't just keep our knowledge and our ideas in our little town. We spread it, we share it. Then there's cultural transmission. As we said, a couple of the newspapers were focused on immigrants. And then entertainment, always entertainment. We'll continue with magazines.